going on, everyone? Mr. Octagonal here. Now today we're going to be introducing our new series here on the channel on NBA 2K19. Even though it is a college basketball series, the reason why I'm doing it on 2K19 and not NCAA 2K10 is one, the graphics are better on this game, and two, I don't have NCAA 2K10 to begin with, so yeah. If you saw the reveal, then you may know the team we're going to be using is the Loyola-Chicago Ramblers. Now, how I'm doing this is I have 3 save files. One save file for non-conference games, one save file for the Maui. Yes, we are going to be in the Maui Invitational. More information will be in a later episode, coming probably early next week. And then our in-conference save file. So that's how I'm doing it. This episode, we're going to go through the roster and the schedule. Next episode will be opening day. So make sure to stay tuned for that. I hope you're excited as I am for the series. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Probably going to last 2 or 3 seasons, so we will have to find a way to implement recruiting. It's not as simple as like NCAA Football 14, because this game doesn't really have recruiting, because it's not a college game. So yeah, let's get right into the roster. Let's meet your 2018-19 Loyola-Chicago Ramblers starting. At the point guard position, the superstar of this team, standing 6'1", it's going to be senior Clayton Custer. Custer was the Missouri Valley Conference Player of the Year a season ago. He was huge in the tournament for the Ramblers, and he's going to be a big leader for these young guys to look and depend on. One of those young players is going to be a true freshman. He goes by the name of Isaiah Bujdoso. I don't know how to say that. Standing at 6'3", he could get some decent minutes off the bench as a backup guard behind Clayton Custer and Marcus Towns. So let's see if he can make a big role this season and potentially start next year. The next guy we have here goes by the name of Aher Uguak. 6'7" forward. He is a sophomore. Didn't have much of a role last year, but he will likely be starting this year at the small forward position. So let's see what he can do with those minutes. The next guy we have here is going to be a wing player. His name is Tate Hall. A season ago, he played at a Division II school, Indianapolis University, which means he has to sit out this year as a transfer. But next year, he's going to be a redshirt junior and someone who could be really good for this team with Custer and Towns gone. The next guy we have here is someone who I think could be really good off the bench, Christian Negron, a 6'7" forward. He has a decent jump shot. He's pretty athletic, and I think he could be a pretty big part of the Loyola depth. The next guy we have here is going to be the big man, sophomore Cameron Krutwig. Krutwig started towards the end of last year during the tournament, and he's going to be one of this team's better players this season. I expect him to do some big things down low. Next guy we have here is going to be number 1, a really young and talented guard who could be a superstar once he's a senior. He is Lucas Williamson, 6'4", 205 pounds. He has a smooth stroke, and I think could be a really good spark off the bench if this team is struggling to create offense. The next guy we have here will likely be the starting power forward. He goes by the name of Franklin Agunane, a true freshman standing 6'9". He is a really solid member of this Loyola-Chicago recruiting class, and I think he's going to do really well this season for the Ramblers. Next guy we have here could be a really good player for this team this season. That is senior guard Marcus Towns. He is likely going to be the second option after Clayton Custer. Marcus Towns was really good. He hit that big three-pointer against Nevada in the Sweet 16. Towns is going to be a really good scorer, someone who Loyola hopes could put up 20 points a game this season. And the last guy we're going to look at, it's a familiar name, Rashad Pickney, the former wide receiver in the Los Angeles Chargers franchise back in Madden 18. He is going to be the 6th man and likely going to be a starter next year, the Clayton Custer replacement. Pickney was known for his speed and his athleticism, and he can be a really good player down the line. Now that you know the roster, it's time to look at the schedule for the 2018-19 season. Starting things out, Loyola-Chicago is headed to Champaign to take on their in-state rivals, Ayo DeSumo and the Illinois Fighting Illini. Then their home opener, where the banner will be raised, that'll be against the Northeastern Wildcats. Then after those 2 games, the Ramblers are headed to Hawaii, the Maui Invitational. After the Illinois and Northeastern episodes, we will have an episode just previewing the Maui Invitational. Then the next 2 or 3 episodes will be the Maui Invitational. Once Loyola-Chicago heads back home, they're going to be taking on the Tennessee Volunteers. Loyola-Chicago will be rematching every team they played in the tournament last year other than Michigan, so pretty much every team they beat. They beat the Volunteers in the round of 32 last year. Then at Davidson versus UTEP versus Stanford. At Miami, that's going to be a rematch of the first round of the tournament versus Nevada, which is a Sweet 16 rematch. At Tulane, at Kansas State, which is an Elite 8 rematch. And then probably the most interesting game on the schedule, at least in my opinion, at UMBC. So Loyola-Chicago headed to Baltimore to take on their fellow darlings of this year's tournament, as Loyola-Chicago obviously made the Final Four, and UMBC, meanwhile, was the first 16 seed in history to beat a 1 seed as they beat the Virginia Cavaliers. So I think that should be a very interesting game. And then rounding out non-conference play will be a home game against Kevin Porter Jr. and the USC Trojans. Now looking at the conference schedule, at Valparaiso versus Missouri State versus Northern Iowa. I think Northern Iowa is the best chance of dethroning Loyola-Chicago in this conference. Versus Evansville at Indiana State. Versus Bradley at Missouri State. Versus Drake at Southern Illinois. Versus Illinois State at Evansville. Versus Valparaiso at Bradley. Versus Indiana State at Drake. Versus Southern Illinois at Northern Iowa. And then rounding things out will be on the road. I know it says versus, but it should say at Illinois State. So that is a look at the regular season for the Loyola-Chicago Ramblers. Now that you know a little bit more about the team and the schedule, we can start the season. If this video gets 11 likes, I know that's a lot. If this video can get 11 likes, next episode, opening day against Illinois, will be tomorrow.